Have you ever wondered if you've got enough battery for your boat? Do you have the right size generator? What's DC power? What's AC power? How does this all work? Today, I got some friends on another boat. We're going to go through all that on their boat and explain what's what. I'm going to have some formulas that we're going to go over, explain how to convert one type of power to another. We'll make sure and put those in the description below, but let's go check it out. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell, and you'll get a notification anytime we have a new video.
So here's the story of the Wandering Naps. We are a family of 5 from Texas. Chris and Jolene met in 2nd grade and began dating our freshman year of high school. We got married in college, moved to Texas, had 3 boys, fell in love with the water, sold everything to travel the Caribbean. Join us on our adventure.
This is Randall and Aranya. They are friends of ours. They have it's an 83?
83, yes.
It's a PT Trawler, I think?
PT Trawler,
so,
built in Taiwan.
Yep. So what we're talking about today is the electrical systems on a boat. So we're going to go over some terminology, and then we need to talk about how you intend to use the boat.
Right.
And because it's different. A setup for me in my boat may be different from your setup, and they both can be right, but they could both be wrong depending on how we're using the boat. Are you tied up to shore power all the time? Are you intending to be out on a generator? Do you have solar? Do you have wind? All those factors can come into play. So let's figure this out. Okay, now you guys just recently moved aboard your boat, right?
Yes.
And so we're going through all your systems kind of one at a time, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yes.
just trying to learn it from scratch.
Yeah. I had to do the same thing with our boat, and I've done all this. I just didn't do a video on it. Let's talk about batteries. Okay. You have what's called a deep cycle battery for your house battery. You have house batteries that run your house. Think of like an RV, right? They power your house systems.
All the AC stuff.
Yeah, basically everything except for starting the engines and driving off.
Okay.
You have separate batteries to start your engines. You have a separate battery to start your generator, and then you have your house batteries. Each of those would be considered what we call a bank of batteries.
Okay.
The way yours is set up, you have a engine start battery for one engine, an engine start battery for the other engine, and then your house batteries.
Is that still considered a bank?
Yeah,
Even
so
though they're
yours-
not together?
Yeah. So yours is one engine is one bank, another engine's the other bank.
Okay.
Your houses are your third bank.
So I have 4 banks.
You have 4 banks,
Oh.
and then your generator is its own bank as itself.
Okay.
I feel rich already.
I know. 4 banks. Woohoo.
You have 2 battery chargers. You have one battery charger that charges banks 1, 2, and 3, and then you have a separate battery charger that charges your generator battery.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when we say your battery charger only charges when you're on shore power, and it's also going to charge when your generator's turned on. As long as you
Okay.
flipped on that switch, it should charge your batteries.
Which switch?
The battery charging on your main breaker, your main panel.
Yes.
As long as that's on, when your generator's on and you're unplugged from shore power,
Yeah.
that will charge. The battery charger will charge the batteries.
So to go back
Or-
to these batteries.
Yep. Or if you're plugged into shore power and that is on, then it will charge all your batteries.
Okay.
So the next thing we want to touch on is the different types of batteries.
Okay.
You have like a start battery, which you think of like a car battery. You have a deep cycle battery, which is like your house, where it's designed to be decharged and then recharged and decharged. Versus a house battery is designed that way. A start battery, like a car battery, is not. They also have what's called a hybrid battery nowadays, which is a little bit of both. So every manufactured battery kind of gives their own thing a different label. On a boat, my recommendation is to always have a marine deep cycle, and a lot of times they're RV marine for all your situations. Even your start batteries, a marine starting battery is still going to have better performance than just a start battery, because it's going to sit for long periods of time where it may not be fully utilized, and that's going to be better than a car is designed to be. You go away on vacation or don't start your car for a month, you come back to it with the battery, right? So deep cycle batteries have a rating called amp hours. And it's basically a measure of draw over time. So how much power can I draw out of that battery over how much time? Okay. Amp hours are always measured at 20 hours. So you have 245 amp hours at 20 hours. So you've got two of those batteries and they're hooked up in parallel. So positive goes to positive, negative to negative. What parallel does is it takes your two batteries and it makes them like one big battery without losing any amps. So instead of 245 amp hours, you have 490 amp hours. Okay? What that means is over the course of that 20 hours, if you divide that by the 20, you can draw 24 and a half amps per hour, and that battery will last 20 hours, or it will take 20 hours to die.
Okay.
Okay?
If it's not being recharged.
If it's not being recharged, exactly. You've got an inverter, which takes your power from your battery and it converts it. It takes your DC power and converts it to 110 volt, so you can run your standard appliances, like a water heater, crock pot, microwave, ice maker.
The batteries give power to the inverter, and the inverter would that normally would be DC power because the batteries are DC
Or direct current.
or direct current. But instead, that changes it. The inverter changes it to the AC power, which is like the regular plugs, like I normally would use in a regular house.
Exactly. Exactly. So when you're plugged into shore power, that whole step is bypassed. Because the way your boat's designed is you've got power coming in from the cable from the shore power, which is 110 volt, which is 120 volt, which is your alternating current, and it's powering all your outlets and it's powering all your different things. So you don't run through the inverter. On my boat, the way it works is we'll plug into shore power, then everything that's 110 plug-in power works. When I disconnect, I flip a switch, and now everything runs off the inverter, aka off the batteries. So you've got the shore power off and a generator button, where it switches from shore to generator, right?
Shore, off.
Yeah. So what those are for is you plug in your boat, and your whole boat is powered by shore power.
Right.
When you want to unplug from the boat or from the shore, you turn on your generator, and then you flip that from shore over to generator. Everything that was powered by your shore is now powered by your generator. Okay? Has nothing to do with your inverter. The inverter is more going to be like, I'm at anchor, I don't want to run my generator for right now. Because who wants to run their generator 24/7 when you're out cruising, right? You only want to run it for, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, something like that.
Just enough to do.
Charge batteries, maybe make water. There's certain appliances we can't run off the inverter. We have to run them off the generator. So the inverter will run your basic stuff. For example, your refrigerator. It'll run your refrigerator when no shore power is plugged in and no generator is running. That's the point of the inverter.
And that would be run by the house battery?
Yeah. There are a couple of numbers and calculations that you need to be aware of.
Okay.
Generators usually rate themselves in kilowatts. And then you've got watts. A kilowatt is 1,000 watts. So it's easy to do that math, right? And then you've got volts and amps. You've got 110, 115, 120 volt, which is our American power system. So when we talk about 110, 120, it's all interchangeable. Your next one would be like a 240 volt.
110 and 120 are interchangeable?
Yeah, you'll see a lot of appliances, they'll say rated at 110 volt or 115 volt or 120 volt. All those are talking about is your typical two-prong plug-in in the wall.
So that's okay. It says
All the
110
same.
and 120.
Yep. And then you've got amps. When you look at the back of all your appliances, they'll give you either an amp or they'll give you a watt. Okay? A watt is a product of a volt and an amp. So volt times amps equals watts. For these calculation purposes, I did everything at 120. 120 volts. Yep. And then, for example, your ice maker said 2.7 amps. Okay? So I took 120 times 2.7, and your ice maker draws 325 watts. Okay?
Okay. So basically, you're having to transfer everything, so you're talking about apples to apples.
Exactly.
As opposed to
Exactly.
volts to this and blah, blah, blah.
So I've already done the math, and your water maker, the big pump,
Yeah.
it's 750 watts. Okay, water heater is 1250 watts. Oven 1500 watts. Refrigerator is only 180 watts.
Oh, really?
It really doesn't draw much compared to your oven.
Yeah.
Microwave 1100 watts. Your crock pot 250 watts. So it draws more than the fridge but less than the microwave. Your ACs are your big ones, 1680 watts. Okay. Your generator is a 7.7 kilowatt, which is 7700 watts. Okay. You want to figure your watt usage when you're on the generator at 80%. The reason you want to do that is because whenever anything starts, like an AC turns on, it doesn't draw 1600 watts. It draws maybe 2500 watts. It spikes, and then it comes down. So anytime something turns on, it always has a surge.
Okay.
So that's why you back off 20%. And so in your mind, you figure your generator is 6,000 watts. That being said, why is that important? You only have so much power.
Right.
So you can only run so many things at once.
Off the generator.
Off the generator. Well, your inverter is the same way.
Okay.
You have a 3,000 watt inverter. So you can't power any more than 3,000 watts. So that's half what your generator can do.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And so that's where you got to look at this math. And that's where everyone has to do their own thing to their own boat. You got to create this cheat sheet so you can, in your mind, figure out what kind of run at the same time. For example, your inverter will not power both your air conditioners.
Okay.
And honestly, I don't even know that I would. You should not plan on ever running your air conditioning units off of an inverter.
Okay.
If you want AC, you're either plugging in shore power or you're running off your generator.
Okay.
So just take that off your plate.
Okay.
Now, your microwave may be able to run off your inverter.
If I have nothing else.
It's a large spike here.
But there is a large spike. The microwave is one of the biggest draws when it comes to electrical power. The other big one is your water heaters.
Yeah.
In our boat, we don't run those off the inverter. The inverter for me runs in the refrigerator, ice maker, your different stuff you're gonna plug in like a fan. But if I'm gonna fire, you guys have a coffee pot?
No.
Well, our coffee pot is 1,200 watts.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So it's up there more than microwave.
Wow.
So when we are on the hook and we fire up the generator to make coffee.
Wow.
Okay, so what does this mean for you and what does it mean for people that are watching?
Right.
What this means is everyone has to sit down and talk about when do we use what appliances, how often, do we use them on shore power, do we use them when we're running the generator, do we want to be able to use them without running the generator? Because you can get big enough batteries and a big enough inverter, and you could run both your ACs off of battery power if you wanted to. It's crazy expensive, and for what you guys are doing, it's probably not worth it. We know people who do run ACs off their batteries because they have these crazy, nice lithium-ion batteries, and they've set themselves up there to be on the hook.
Right.
That's the way they're setting it up. So if you're doing this at home, you need to figure out go to each appliance, figure out either the watts or the amps that it draws, do the math with the calculation we gave you earlier, create yourself a cheat sheet, and then you can go and you can look, how much power am I drawing at any given time, and is my inverter big enough? Is my battery bank big enough? Is my generator big enough? And that's how you figure out if you needed to replace your generator, what size generator am I replacing? How many batteries do I need? What size inverter do I want? It all correlates to that.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks again for watching, everybody. I hope you found this video very helpful. Please remember, I'm not an expert at anything, so do your own research, figure out your own numbers. So hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next Friday.